Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So the new patch just rolled out onto the live servers, but that also means that a new patch has also just hit the PvE servers, and I have to say there are some pretty massive changes on the PvE at the very moment. So I thought we'll take an early look into the PvE, see what's happening, and check out some new stuff that's there, such as new items, and just get a better idea as to what we can expect. So if you guys end up enjoying this video as per usual, then please definitely remember to hit that like button. But let's get right into it. So first and foremost, the biggest change on the PvE right now is going to be a kind of rework happening to the AP items, including also adding some new items as well. So let us first begin with the 3 new items, the first of which being Spellbound Orb. You can see here for a total cost of 2800, combining with a large rod and an Aether Wisp, you'll be getting 100 AP, 10% movement speed, so it already kind of has the feeling of a Luden's Echo, but it has a pretty interesting effect. Passive Spell Steal, nearby allied and enemy spellcast charge the Spellbound Orb up to a cap, being 200, so think of something similar to Kassadin's E. Then you can actually activate the item to use all the charges you finally got to do the following. Gain up to 50% decaying movement speed, which is increased per charge of Spellbound Orb, and up to 50 ability power, which is also increased per charge of Spellbound Orb for each spellcast stored in the item itself, with a 60-second cooldown. Well, some of you might be probably wondering, well, why the hell would I want this item and also Luden's Echo to coexist? Well, you'll find out soon that Luden's Echo also got a mini rework, which we'll go into very soon. But this item definitely feels pretty interesting and also very aggressive, and I'm pretty excited to start using it. Moving along, however, we have 2 new other items to talk about, the first of which being something called Morello's Cursed Tome. Now this is actually a rework of Morellonomicon, which has been essentially renamed to what you see here. It's similar but also different at the same time, which now offers you 80 AP, 300 health for the cost of 3000 gold, giving you 15 magic penetration and grievous wounds. But some of you might be wondering just what the hell is that item on the left that builds into this new Morellonomicon? Well, as you can see here, that is a new item as well. That is called Orb of Shadow, that offers you 25 AP, 200 health, and 15 magic penetration for a 1500 gold, which is extremely similar to what we currently have with the item Haunting Guise, but apparently that also got changed as well. So those right there are the 3 new items that we'll be seeing in League of Legends, hopefully relatively soon, that are going to be a part of the new AP build path for AP champions. But next up, let's take a look at the other items that essentially got reworked. So first we have Lost Chapter, which now costs you 1100 gold, 25 AP, 300 mana, gives you 10% CDR, and still gives you the extra mana upon leveling up. But now Lost Chapter actually upgrades into 3 items, being the Archangel Staff, the new Luden's Echo, and also the new Hextech GLP. The TLDR is going to be Hextech GLP is for cash potential, the new Luden's Echo is going to be for poke, and the new Archangel Staff is going to be for scaling. Because all 3 of these items now offer you 20% CDR, so with that being said, let's take a look at Archangel Staff first. For 3200 gold, you'll be getting 50 AP, 650 mana, and 10% CDR. This item has a new passive that's called Haste, which gives you 10% more CDR, like I said, 20% total. It'll still grant you the ability power equal to 3% of your maximum mana, refunding mana when spent, and it'll still charge up your mana pool as you consistently keep using abilities. Following that, we have the new Luden's Echo, which also building out of Lost Chapter for 3200 gold, will give you 80 AP, 500 mana, which is actually quite a bit, and of course the 10% CDR with also Haste combined to offer you 20% total. And it still has the Echo passive effect that is essentially the exact same thing as the current Luden's Echo. But of course, the biggest thing to note here is the difference in AP, the fact that it now gives you 20% CDR, which is pretty damn massive, and of course also giving you the 500 mana, but no longer giving you the extra movement speed. And the final new reworked item that also gets built out of Lost Chapter is the new Hextech GLP 800, which now for 3000 gold, building out of course the Lost Chapter as well, and the Hextech item gives you 80 AP, 500 mana, 10% CDR plus Haste, of course being 20% total, very similar to the new Luden's Echo, and it still has the same active effect called Frostbolt, which to my understanding does literally the same thing as the current GLP, but again, the biggest changes, of course, like before with the Luden's Echo, is in the stats that it now offers. But it does not end there just yet, because next we have to talk about the new Liandry's Torment, but first, Haunting Guise. Apparently it no longer has flat penetration and instead has a passive effect that synergizes with damage over time patterns, which obviously carries on to Liandry's. So let's take a look at Liandry's Torment next. For 3100 gold, 80 AP, 300 health, still feels relatively the same, but it now has new effects, one of which called Essence Drain. While damaging champions, increase the damage you deal by 10%, max 2% per second. So to my understanding, as you keep consistent consistently doing damage, you keep kind of increasing this kind of overall damage you're dealing up to 10%, which slowly accrues over time as you consistently deal damage, which with someone like Malzahar sounds pretty damn good. And the other effect, Haunt, which seems to be pretty much the exact same as the old Liandry's Torment. So not the biggest changes for Liandry's Torment, but again, Essence Drain being pretty damn impactful, and I feel like that in itself is a pretty big change. So that's it for the AP item portion and the new items and all that good stuff. I mean, hopefully you guys have understood it quite clearly, but let's jump into some changes happening to champions. So first and foremost, we have Mr. Oren himself that did receive quite a big nerf to where you don't really see him too often, but now receiving some changes, and overall I would say a buff, but at the same time not entirely sure. So first we have his W, where the cooldown has been increased from 13 seconds down to 9 seconds by rank 5 to now starting at 17 and only going down to 9 by rank 5. So it kind of almost makes you want to max it out first. The shield duration has been increased from 2.5 seconds to 4 seconds, which is pretty good. However, the brittle duration has been lowered from 6 seconds to 3 seconds. Following this, we also have his E ability, which had the base damage on this ability increased by a lot, about 2.5 extra damage. The bonus armor ratio and MR ratio both have been increased by 10%, but now Oren's E ability can no longer hit the same person twice, but again, that is more than made up for with the way his new E ability's base damage is working now, because you don't have to land both parts, you just have to land the first part or a part of the ability, and boom, you'll be doing just the same if not more damage. And then moving on to his ultimate, the brittle duration on this has also been lowered from 6 seconds to 3 seconds as well. All in all, some pretty decent changes to Oren to where I would honestly consider it to be a buff overall, and I feel like this actually might put Oren in a little bit of a better spot. Moving along, we have the Rengar rework back on the PvE once again. Now there are going to be some slight changes, and I'll go over only the changes that are now new because everything else is still the same. So his passive from the Bone Tooth Necklace and also his ultimate, the AP ratio on both of these has been completely removed because they were scared and not really sure as to how people might build them, and to also avoid any kind of really OP builds coming out from Rengar because now he has this double scaling abilities. Then following that up with his Q ability, the base damage on this ability has actually been increased in the lower ranks, and on top of this, the total AD scaling has also been increased on this ability as well. Also, his W, the damage has been increased by 10 at every single rank, and the cooldown on it has also been lowered. So like I said, I did talk about the Rengar rework in a previous video, and it is finally back on the PvE servers. To my knowledge, everything else regarding Rengar is essentially the same thing as it was on the PvE cycle previous to this one, so in just a few days ago or a week ago, and the rework for Rengar is going to still be coming out, I'm assuming in about 2 weeks, just with the changes that were added this patch, which I just talked about. Next, we're getting into things that I'm personally very interested in because my two boys are being buffed, the first of which being Talon. Now this is only going to be towards his ultimate, but it's a pretty decent buff in my honest opinion. The bonus AD ratio has been increased by 5%, and the damage has been increased on ranks 2 and rank 3, and at rank 3 it's actually been increased by 60 damage. Keep in mind that 60 extra damage, so now rank 3 is 240 base damage rather than 180, but it hits twice if you do the combo properly. So that's going to be quite a bit of extra damage added, which is pretty damn good. I have to say, I'm a little surprised that they're doing this, but I'm personally not complaining. And following this, we also have a buff coming over to ZED. Unfortunately, it's not anywhere near as good as Talon's because all they really did is just lower the cooldown on Zed's ultimate to where rank 2 and also rank 3 it is slightly lower, 10 seconds and 20 seconds respectively. In my honest opinion, not trying to be biased or anything, this buff really doesn't change anything. I mean, this won't make Zed any more OP or weak or whatever than he currently is. He's still going to be in essentially the same position as he is at the very moment, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. Again, the PvE cycle just started, maybe more buffs will come in the future. And the last champion I want to talk about is going to be a buff coming over to Volibear of all champions. Not someone I expected to get a buff anytime soon because, well, honestly, I kind of forgot he even existed. But the buffs are as follows, the first of which is going to be towards his Q ability to where now the movement speed when you activate Q has been changed in how it works and how it scales. Rather than scaling per rank of the ability, it now scales per rank of Volibear himself up to 16, so it still starts at the same minimum, being 15% or 30% of the enhanced movement speed. However, it now caps out at a higher percentage of movement speed, so that's actually pretty good for Mr. Volibear. And on top of this, when you actually lose the movement speed and transition from the maximum to the minimum, it decays over 1 second rather than instantly losing it, which is definitely a good thing as well. Following this, his W Frenzy has essentially a new effect to where now, in addition to monsters, the active's cooldown is now reduced by 50% when he bites a minion as well, which instantly makes me think of top lane Volibear. And moving on to his E ability, Majestic Roar, it now has a new effect to where now it knocks back enemies slightly and and also airborne or dashing enemies now take an additional 40 up to 120 base damage plus 30% AP in damage extra. Again, thinking of Volibear in the top lane, facing a Yasuo, facing maybe someone like Fiora or even Camille, the E just sounds super strong and effective. And the last thing very quickly is a new jungle item called Pathfinders Knife, which is gonna be pretty interesting. 4,000 gold, you'll be getting a jungle item that essentially does the same thing as all the other ones, but the new effect is called Tooth and Nail. And this states the following: basic attacks versus monsters deal 25 bonus damage and grant you 15% bonus attack speed for 2 seconds, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it also has Chilling Smite, which does, to my knowledge, pretty much the same thing as the current blue smite as well. So not entirely sure what the goal is or where they're going with this exactly, but yeah, I mean, apparently there's a new jungle item. So there you guys have it, a whole bunch of new changes coming over to the PvE server, some pretty massive ones as well. Let me know what you think about this down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about the new changes to the champions, the new items, especially the new AP items and the reworks of the AP items and a whole bunch of other stuff, because this is definitely a juicy one. So as usual, if you guys end up enjoying this video, then definitely hit it with that like button. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next video. Peace.